Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Black House Podcast. I am your host, as always, TJakks World, here with my two great co-hosts. We got some interesting topics to talk about today, so we're gonna roll right into it. So our first topic is the movement for Black Lives and the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. KDot, give us a little bit on that, man.
All right. So, according to the Associated Press, the Movement for Black Lives announced that they are opposing the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. They released a letter to congressional leaders stating that the bill doubles down on reform strategies that have historically failed to center marginalized communities and address police violence nationwide. So I'm just going to briefly refer to a few tweets that they put out. So one of the tweets reads, "The Movement for Black Lives cannot support the Justice and Policing Act. Police violence is not a symptom of bad apples. It is a symptom of a flawed institution founded on white supremacy." Another one lists like the cons of the Justice and Policing Act. One is that it gives more money to police, and we know we kind of looked at that last time, or at least a few things that we mentioned last time make this pretty obvious. Like they're going to be trying to create a database for bad police, quote unquote, and I think they're also doing like cultural training, so diversity training. And another one is their priorities. The Justice and Policing Act prioritizes failed strategies, and it relies on police to fix themselves. And they are demanding that the Senate votes no on the act. As we also mentioned last time, the House passed it. I believe it was 120 to 112, so by only an 8-vote margin. And personally, I don't think this is going to get passed in the Senate regardless. But so this is, just their take on this. And this obviously presents a divide in the Black community, as we already know. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think
Karen Bass.
So again, I don't think their expectation is that like they have someone in the Senate's ear, right? I don't think that's the expectation. I mean, we don't even have that for progressive stuff, let alone like black benefiting progressive things, or like specifically Black benefiting progressive things. So I'm glad they did it to highlight that it is vastly different than like what the overall calls have been. Because even the whole like call of like defunding and reinvesting it in something else is like, it's not like, oh, increase your budget on police by another 200 million on what you call training, which you've already quote unquote been doing for decades now. It's spend money elsewhere, not just spend more money on them and say, I'm gonna give a little bit to this thing too that y'all was asking for. It's like, no, like stop spending as much money, and every extra dollar you was gonna spend on them, spend on these other things which are actually preventative in terms of crime, which will actually reduce the likelihood of a need for the law to be enforced by anyone. So I definitely think like they played their position correctly and highlighted that does not reflect the national sentiment over the last year. Like I think if I was running the org, that's what I would have done too. I mean, even on the local level, it's like our city has passed like our city in Syracuse like passed some like bullshit police reform reinvention plan in response to the executive order that Cuomo set like last April about, all the towns and cities need to do a bill to like reimagine policing and shit. And the whole process was bullshit. The city decided who was going to lead the commission, and it was the city themselves. Somehow Syracuse police chief was leading the commission for all the fucking other towns and shit around Syracuse, even though he's fucking trash. And what's it called? And they decided amongst themselves what reform looked like. None of it was reimagined. It was literally like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have some training. We're gonna try to talk to the community. Like
Right.
we're gonna look. We're gonna
That's just
exactly. It's like
always
we're gonna
the
look
answer.
at, you know, making sure people use it, turn their cameras on. But like none of it is like hard requirements. Like it's just a whole bunch of bullshit. And like none of it was new, innovative, or actually even a step towards decreasing the likelihood that somebody is going to be abused by police, over policed, or over criminalized. Like none of what they proposed in that bill reflected that. And
Right.
yeah, and like I mean, and like BLM and like some of the other orgs in Syracuse, like Spark, like the whole thing is we're gonna do. Actually, never mind. But yeah, we not liking that. We not liking that. So
Yeah, so I think I definitely
Gotcha.
misunderstood which act this was. I was confusing this. Yeah, I was confusing
for real?
this with the thing that passed in LA, where they're taking 150 million from the LAPD and putting that towards the schools in LA, which cuts
Okay.
like 350 positions, sworn police officer positions,
yeah,
over time, over
shit.
in the 2022.
yeah,
So yeah, so I was
Damn.
thinking about that,
Yeah.
and I guess I
Become a
hadn't
teacher.
yeah. I was happy to see
related
that.
it.
I mean, yeah, I
So
was happy to see that.
so the George Floyd Policing Act, that's the one where is that
It addresses qualified
The
immunity.
immunity,
Yeah,
the rape laws.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I still think it's pretty good. It's pretty well
Yeah.
written legislation in general. On
Yeah.
a federal level, though, I do now I think I understand more of your sentiment from last week, Black Politech. On the federal level, I don't know how they're gonna fucking enforce that shit. And because again, who's it gonna go to if there's an issue? The Supreme Court. The
Yeah.
Supreme Court ain't siding with no Black Lives Matter. Come on now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's trash. It's really trash.
Yeah.
It's really
I
trash.
think so. I guess now knowing it's federal and not state, I changed my answer a little bit. So I do think they should voice opposition that it's not enough.
Yeah.
And that they want more, because you want to keep holding people, even when people do some of what you want, you want to keep holding them accountable so that they do all of what you want.
Thanks.
And because I thought this contained the 150 million leaving police or whatever, and since this doesn't contain that, that definitely changes how I view the legislation.
Yeah, because I mean,
case.
honestly, across all the states,
right? Because that's what the movement for Black Lives wants. They want that reallocation of funds. You know.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what's it called? Yeah, that 150 million wouldn't hold for the whole country.
Yeah.
Billion.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why I was just thinking California. But yeah, if it's federal, I think they should make some noise about it. I think they should get their. And honestly, I think who they should be yelling at, instead of like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Mitch McConnell, yell at the progressives. Yell at them, because they're the people who are going to raise the issues in Congress. Yell at AOC. Yell at Ilhan Omar. Yell at
Cori Bush.
Cori Bush. Jamal Bowman. Yell at them, because they're the people who can hear your screaming and then scream at the people in Congress. And again, there are enough progressives in Congress now to have some real power, to block some bills, to put, for lack of better words, to whip it out and put it on the table and let everybody look at it. They got that power now, and what they need is some fire under their asses, which is the people saying, I need y'all to go in here and start talking about this, that, and this. I don't just want to hear you talking about it on the floor. I want to see it in legislation. I don't want to just hear you talking about what bills should be passed. I want to see you blocking bills if it's not what your constituents want,
Facts.
Because
respect.
I was gonna say just real quick, because Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of those new QAnon Republicans would block any legislation they don't like until it comes back in the way that they want it. Right? And those are the crazy people. They block anything for their constituents. Why don't our politicians do the same thing? Why aren't they working as hard as the Republicans are for their constituents. That doesn't make sense. Republicans work and that I feel like is an unsung truth. Republicans work harder for their constituents than Democrats do.
Facts.
True. And let's not forget what we mentioned last episode. Last year, when this was trying to get passed, when this got passed in the House, it passed by like 50 something votes. This time it was only 8.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, and you have a great point, yelling at, the progressives. But how much more do we have to yell? We were marching in the street the entire
not even just
summer,
bro. Fall too.
Yelling what we wanted.
Fall too.
Huh? Yeah, bro, countless protests, probably more than, in recent history than, like how much more do we have to do to tell them what we want? Do we need to like riot and leave and whatnot?
You know that I don't know the answers to that question, and the reason that I don't, and because I don't know the answers to that question, you know what the next thing I'm about to say is. That's why I'm moving to Canada. Because I don't want to wait until what did James Baldwin says? It took my mother's time, my sisters and my brother's time. How much more time do you want for your progress? Because this isn't my progress. I'm ready to be free. I'm ready to be treated like a human being. I'm ready to have rights. I'm ready to be respected. You're not ready for me to be respected. You're not ready for me to be free. You're not ready for me to be right. So how many more times do we have to protest and march?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a number. Maybe the number's 30, right? And if the number is exactly 30, right, we have to do 30 more protests before they change things to the way that we want them, right? I don't want to wait for that. That's too long for me.
Yeah.
If everybody knew it was going to be next year, everybody would be like, all right, y'all, let's tough it out. Next year, we got freedom. But we don't know when it's coming, and I'm not waiting no more for them, and I'm not making anybody, any next generations that come out of me, wait for freedom. You're gonna get it somewhere.
Right. I think an additional question is, how much more reform coming from a movement for Black Lives perspective, who are revolutionaries, they don't want reform. How much more reform do we want?
None. I don't want no fucking reform. Like it's funny. I was thinking the other day, like, because again, like shit that's happened on a national level is identical to the shit that's happened like nationally but like in local state, in like local government. Everybody's doing like everybody who did a reform for the most part, like 90%, is on very much on some. Oh, we're gonna update training. We're gonna like, say what's up to the Black folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna have officers give out some ice cream and some shit. Like, they are doing that shit, and that's if they doing a reform if they doing anything at all, right? For the most part, they doing that shit. There's only a couple places that's really doing something different. One of them is like Utica, that is like disbanding their police department, and instead they're like creating this new department that has an armed division and an unarmed division. And the unarmed division is going to be responding to basically everything that it's supposed to only be responding to everything that doesn't require use of force for real. So, and I know like the abolitionists in Utica have critiques and shit. So I don't know the specific ins and outs, but I'm like, even just that is like one of the two, if not the most radical, and I don't even want to say radical, the most significant change in how a police department is running in the country so far. That at least that I've seen, like I've not heard anything close to that. And so I'm like, and that's like in a small ass Utica, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying New York, like most people don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, so I'm like, when we I forgot what I was going to. I basically was saying like, our local officials, especially our Black ones, they champion the shit they just signed, because like our Common Council signed it. Our Common Council president is a Black woman. There's like a couple other Black people on the Common Council. They signed it, they championed it, whatever. They're like, this is a step. And I'm like, literally, like, how many steps in place are we about to make? I'm just like literally, like when I hear a politician say this is a step in the right direction, I hear a step in place. I don't hear progress.
Yeah, and I think that kind of hits on maybe what should be that. Like, it just sparked the idea when you just said that. Maybe what should be the Black movement's focus is not federal changes at all, but purely local city changes, and working your way up from there if
So
you can.
I will say, like, to my knowledge, like the movement for Black Lives, like they're like they're supposed to be the national representation for like local shit.
No, I'm not criticizing them for not being more local. I'm
Yeah.
saying in general, not yeah. I said moving for Black Lives, and I meant like the Black movement in general. All Black
Oh
people,
yeah.
there are a movement for freedom, generally
Mhm.
speaking.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should focus, like we shouldn't even be thinking about the federal in terms of getting our real change, but going like, for example, you want $15 minimum wage. Well, maybe you should be trying to champion it in your city. You know, maybe they should start taking, I don't know, like if you're in one of those bigger, organizing groups, maybe you should go from city to city and wherever you're at and try to get those minimum wage hikes, try to get those Medicare for all type systems set up to see if you can even
Yeah.
pilot that in the city by itself versus trying to force the federal government to do it, where the powers are just so far beyond our control as a 13% minority in this country, that it just it might be an idea. And it's not to say that people haven't been trying to
Yeah.
do that, but maybe on like a more consistent and
Yeah.
mass scale could be useful.
Yeah. I mean, I know
Yeah.
to some of the stuff, like I know without that like federal buy-in, like for example, like obviously qualified immunity, it don't matter what the fuck they did at the state level, that shit was sticking. Like, so, and then
Right.
even like I know like some states will probably be like, well, if our shit go up, what's to stop the flight of businesses to another state where the shit is cheaper? Da 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 da. Like, I know that's gonna be their like argument of like, oh no, well we can't do the shit because if we're the only ones who do it, then they're gonna go to everybody else who's not doing it. And
And I
then
think that's why it would take a whole community approach. Like it would have to be something that everyone comes together and talks about,
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I
which
think
is
though,
not
like
America's strong suit, but
that I'm like, because I'm like, shit, we can solve everything if the whole community was like, yo, this is our focus for the next
Yeah.
year, knock it out. All right, that's yeah, we can solve
Right.
everything like
I mean,
that.
yeah, it's not. But
Yeah.
moving on.
Yeah.
George
Yeah.
Floyd, Black Juror Strike, KDot. What's going on, man?
Oh, yeah. So related to what we were just talking about, I'm going to go into a brief little, history lesson. So in 1985, in Batson versus Kentucky, the Supreme Court held that the 14th Amendment prohibits prosecutors from discriminating on the basis of race when selecting juries. And I was thinking like a great example of this because I think you guys have watched the O.J. Simpson
versus OJ.
trial show.
Based on that show, I don't
Yeah.
think OJ did it.
And we saw
Yeah.
well, we saw the significance of a jury, like what they can do, the power of a jury in that show in history. And when I asked my mother about that case, she's like, yeah, like that was the news. Like that was what people were watching every single day. What was going on with that case? So, but prior to 1985, when they decided this, in 1965, the court ruled in Swain versus Alabama that this action, that discriminating on the basis of race when selecting juries, only breaches the 14th Amendment if the prosecutor strikes black jurors in every case. So it's one of those things where you have to catch somebody, doing this, having this behavior every single time.
Yeah,
so it's kind of
that's
those
a
impossible
terrible
things.
threshold.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Come on now.
Yeah. And prior to this, it was open season. Up until 1880, black people couldn't even serve on a jury. So yeah, so we see the systemic racism like built into the jury system in general. And so what happened in this situation was basically the defense attorney decided to use one of his peremptory strikes to strike a potential juror who happened to be a black man that used to live in the same neighborhood as Brother George Floyd, rest in peace, and witnessed police misconduct and whatnot. So briefly, a peremptory strike is the prosecutor or defendant's right to remove a potential juror without giving any real reason. And when I say any real reason, I don't mean they can just do it without giving reason. They can make up anything they want when they want to do it. So in theory, these strikes increase the fairness, quote unquote, of the proceedings by eliminating potential bias in the jury.
That's bias only recognized by the prosecutor doing the strikes, right?
Yeah. Right, but it's also on the defense though. So as an example of the OJ story, we saw on both sides. I don't know if y'all remember those scenes, but they were striking out potential jurors left and right. So and race is a big deal in this, as we have seen. So so in practice, there's been a history of implicit discriminatory practices based off of stereotypes and prejudices that result in the striking of potential black jurors. Jurors have been stricken for age. Jurors have been stricken for age, political or social philosophy, hair, clothes, education, unemployment, residency, or even criminal record. In 31 states, actually, the federal government, in 31 states and the federal government, they adopt the lifetime felon exclusion from juries. And just with that alone, 30% of black men are unable to serve as on the jury. So that knocks out a large population of people that could potentially, not even potentially, could reverse the polarity of a case. So in this case, a brother that was a prospective juror told the defense attorney that he had a personal reason to serve on the jury. And when I read this, I was really like, why the fuck would you even say anything, along these lines? But hey, he was speaking his mind. He noted that he had personal experience of police misconduct, but that he was fully capable of weighing the evidence fairly. He was also a former resident of the neighborhood that Brother George Floyd was murdered. The potential juror was soon dismissed by peremptory strike from the defense. And just for background information, 12 of the required 14 jurors have already been selected. 6 who are white, 4 who are black, and 2 who are mixed race. And also, just some background information, Minneapolis is roughly 55% white, 16% black, and so on. So what do you guys think of this?
I mean, I guess representation wise, it sounds decent.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like for me to actually be like, oh, I'm like, at least there's 4 black people that's gonna not be racist because I'm like, to me, that's not, I don't see that as an immediate win. I'm like, I don't know these people. I don't know where they come from. I don't know how they was chosen. I don't know why they was chosen. I don't know their socioeconomic status. I don't know if they got an agenda. I don't know none of their shit. Because all I know is majority of juries letting motherfuckers go. And I'm like, regardless. So I'm like, hey, I'm hoping for the best. And that's all I'm going to do. I hope it's not one of them BS situations where they not provided all the evidence and they're only allowed to choose between they not did this shit or they did something else. So that's all I got to say on it.
Right. Yeah, and quickly, just like, I hope we're thinking about the significance that the significant perspective that this brother could have contributed to this case, being from or being once lived in the same neighborhood that he was murdered in, and witnessing certain injustices. Just that perspective that he could have contributed. And as you mentioned, we don't know what the other, we want to hope that the other black people are on our side, but we don't know what they're thinking.
And so they didn't let the dude, I think I missed that. They didn't let the dude who actually was from his neighborhood.
They kicked him off. Nope. They let
Oh
him go.
yeah, that's trash.
Yeah,
That's
fucked
trash.
up.
That's big trash.
I'll say on this, I'll give a more legislative, I guess, perspective. It comes, or these types of abilities are part of the American government's obsession with their obsession with not authority, but discretion. There we go. The American government's obsession with discretion, because just like you can use good discretion, right? So a cop pulling you over and letting you go with a warning instead of giving you a ticket. You can also exercise bad discretion. So in the exact same situation, a cop could pull you over and write you a high ticket, or say things that make you combative, and then arrest you for resisting arrest, or you can just arrest you and have it be a bad arrest and make up something later, or arrest you, have it be a bad arrest, and just let you go, just waste your time. So and there's a lot of that discretion built into the criminal justice system, and it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes the discretion helps you out, and sometimes it doesn't. Like you said, the defend or the public defender also has that ability to do the strikes. So theoretically it balances out, but this is not how things always work in reality. So I think part of it is I don't want to say inability, but I'm gonna go with inability. The inability of the people in power to simply make comprehensive and specific legislation that dictates certain things. They make damn near everything discretionary. And, at least make it democratic if you're going to make everything discretionary. Like being able to strike a juror independently should require some type of review, right? And you can dictate who would be the persons allowed to review in that case and who wouldn't. Yes, it would be more tedious. Yes, it would take more time. And then somebody might say, well, realistically, the courts don't have that type of money. We'll put more money in the fucking courts, right? The excuse that we get from why the courts can't perform certain functions, or why public defenders can't perform certain functions, why they prefer to go to a plea over a trial, always has to do with resources and money. Yet we don't put the resources towards the courts in the ways and the places that they should be put in. So I think with this, it's just part and parcel with how the governments, local and state function within, and federal function within the United States. They're all discretionary because nobody bothered to just make comprehensive laws that cover multiple scenarios. Yes, it'll take time, but when you do it, you'll have it done. And you can still include some discretionary authority in there. You can still include discretionary powers, but again, everything's discretionary. Whether or not they bring up charges is discretionary. What cases the prosecutor takes is discretionary, right? The degree to which you're charged for any particular crime is discretionary. The judge's sentencing is discretionary. Everything's discretionary. And don't get me wrong, yes, life in general is not, neatly packaged in a box, but that's why you make comprehensive legislation. Be more specific. That's all you have to do, and it's not going to be easy. You're going to need genuinely smart people to help you come up with this legislation. So you can't just get, a sophomore poli-sci major to make up some comprehensive legislation like this. You will need people who know what they're talking about, who know how to write, who've done research, or people who know people that have done research, and who can contribute effectively and create the types of laws that you need to make these things seem fair. Because the criminal justice system just seems so unfair because any two people can come into it with the exact same circumstances and have totally different outcomes just depending on who they're dealing with in the system.
Yeah. That discretion in this situation just, in as I was saying, like up until 1985, it's not even 40
Yeah.
years ago. Not even
Oh, it's
40 years
1985? I thought
ago.
you said
You could just
1885.
get. Oh no
I
no
was
no
about
no!
to say there. I was like, they just
1880 is
became free at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when. No, up until 1880, you couldn't. No black person could serve on a jury. In 1985 is when the Supreme Court ruling said, you know, the 14th. This goes against the 14th Amendment, discriminating based on race for jury selection. So saying he's black, he can't be on this jury, we're going to strike him, is illegal. But you can say, oh, I don't like his hair. I don't like his clothes. You see this color blindness again?
Well, moving on to some more bullshit. Or, well, I guess that'll be up for y'all to decide. I'm kind of set on what I think, but y'all might change my minds because y'all always have some great inputs. So, Teen Vogue appointed their youngest editor ever.
Yeah.
And she recently resigned after backlash over tweets that she made in 2011. Now, the tweets themselves are, some of them are racist, some of them are homophobic. I'll read a few of them just to give kind of an air of how of what these tweets were like. So one of
And
the
hold
tweets.
on. What's the ethnicity of
was
this woman?
We're gonna get to all of that.
All right. I mean, okay.
We gonna get to all of that. We gonna get. Let me tell the story. Dang.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So one of the tweets was, she tweeted out, "Outdone by an Asian." # What's new? Now Googling how to not wake up with swollen Asian eyes. Another tweet said, "Gave me a 2 out of 10 on my chemistry problem. Cross out all of my work and don't explain what I did wrong. Thanks a lot, stupid Asian TA. You are great." Another one. Oh wait, I think I lost it actually. Yeah, I lost it. She had a couple of other ones, but you kind of get the sentiment about how these tweets were. So the tweets themselves are not excusable in the sense that you can't say, oh, they're not that bad. Like, no, they're bad tweets. They're very bad tweets. And so this woman does appear to be a woman of color. I'm not going to speak on what her full race is. I don't know. She looks like she might be black. She could also be Latina. But she's definitely a woman of color for sure. And so in this case, she resigned. It's fair to assume she was forced to resign from this position once she got promoted to the position. She's the longest person to be in that editor position. Her co-workers wrote a petition to get her out of the position, saying that she wasn't qualified to do it because she didn't have enough experience, and she was too young, and then also bringing up the things with the tweets. Now, I land on the side of she shouldn't have resigned or been forced to resign over the tweets from 2011. And the main reason I land on that is because she was 17 when she made those tweets.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she was 17 when she made those tweets. And Twitter was a very different place back then than it is now. Twitter now is damn near a political vehicle, and back then, nobody who put their stuff on Twitter was thinking, about it being used against them in a job down the line. But that doesn't excuse the tweets, which she doesn't say are excused either. She doesn't even say they're excused based on her age. She apologized for them last year and again this year once they came out again. So, but not even just that she's 17. This is 10 years ago, straight up 10 years ago.
Facts.
I'm nowhere near the same person I was 10 years ago. I've changed in every conceivable way possible other than my skin tone. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. And in this case, there was no attempt to see, okay, has she changed? What are her views now on Asians or people in the LGBTQ community. Has she said anything since 2011? Were those her only tweets like that? Perhaps she made those tweets and then somebody talked to her and she, realized they were bad later on, but just didn't take them down because she didn't think that it would be used against her at some point, right? So my issue is we never had that conversation about what does she think now? Where's her mindset now? And so in this case, the conversation was just about what she had done in the past. And so this, I think, I normally hate anybody who uses the words cancel culture because I think it's just an excuse to talk. It's just your excuse for not wanting to be held accountable for anything you did in the past, right? Anything, and for a lot of people, the past was yesterday. But in this case, this is 10 years ago, and we didn't get a chance to see if she's changed since then. And I feel like if we're going to go back 10 years to see everything that everyone's ever wrote that was bad, and then fire them today based on those things, that's what I'm saying. And again, those things aren't right. And she said they weren't right. And she was a teenager at the time, and that doesn't excuse that doesn't excuse the actual tweets. My whole argument is that we never tried to see whether or not she had changed. If she hadn't changed, and she stands by those tweets, and she still talks like that today, then sure, do whatever you're going to do. But if you're solely going off of those tweets, and you don't even ask about the person that she is today, if she's changed at all, and again, this isn't 2 years ago, right? This isn't like Janet Yellen doing talks with Wall Street a year ago or 2 years ago, and they were asking if she has any ties or any financial ties or something like that. This is 10 years ago, straight up. And this is from a teenager to a near 30-year-old at this point. I think this one was way out of. I think this one was way out of context and was an actual example of cancel culture, or canceling someone. I wouldn't call it a culture because it's not even a culture, but an actual example of canceling someone based on something they did in the past without actually examining what type of person they are today.
Yeah. And 10 years ago, like, damn, that's scary. Like, you gonna look 10 years back in my life. This is not, a clearance or anything. Like, she just getting a job. Like, is this really part of the background investigation now? Going back 10 years on a tweet, not like reported actions. Like she actually did something like illegal or something. Like, you going back 10 years on a tweet. If anything, you going back 10 years has shown that she's changed. She hasn't said any more of that stuff. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, and another thing is, these tweets, yes, they're bad. They sound like they were made out of emotion though. It sounds like she's making fun of them because she feels like they're smarter than than her. I don't know about this one. I don't think she should. But as you mentioned, like, this is just the type of culture going on, especially right now, where people are, being reported of things that happened decades ago, years ago, and they're not even giving them a second chance. They're not even looking at how much they could have potentially changed as a person. They're just like, nah, you can't be part of my organization anymore. But knowing damn well, as you mentioned also, if everyone had to, if everyone was under this little, if everyone had to be exposed, everyone would have some dirt. No one is perfect. And yes, this is some fucked up shit. And hell yeah, she should have deleted the damn tweets. But
yeah, I mean, I think, I was disappointed to see it. I was just definitely disappointed to see it because I think to the people that actually, hold people accountable for like past actions and stuff, like regardless of how egregious, I think it kind of gives the people who are like, oh, cancel culture, like more fire, to be honest, and almost legitimizes it. But like then because you do that, you like delegitimize when it's actually necessary to hold somebody accountable for some like really egregious shit that they did last year. Right. like it's like, come on now.
Yeah.
Sis was dead a whole kid. Like she was 17. She was
A
17.
whole kid.
Come
Right
on now. I'm like literally all of us. If you go back to our the transition from teenage to adult, there is no way we didn't carry over homophobia, misogyny, sexism, all types of xenophobia. I'm like, there's no way we didn't carry that from the previous generation. There's nobody who didn't carry any of that at some point from the previous generation. No one right now.
Yeah.
Now, so I'm like, come on now, come on, like that's stupid. And then again, like the fact that you had to go 10 years to find something. Because I'm like, because literally, like the premise is literally y'all was hating on her, and y'all said, oh, well, how can we demonstrate that she shouldn't have this job that we're mad she has, even though she should be that young, writing for Teen Vogue, being the editor, because it is for teens. It is for teens. I'm like, come on now. Come on, sis is really 10 years removed from, no, technically 8 years removed from being a teen. And y'all mad that she got it and she's the youngest person to ever do it? That means all y'all grown ass people this whole time been sitting here perping in this magazine, writing for an audience that y'all aren't even close to being a part of. I'm like, that doesn't make sense anyway, but that's just a tangent. But still, I'm like, yeah. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed.
I think definitely, like what you were mentioning, what gets lost in this conversation is degree of the thing, right? Is saying racist or homophobic things bad? Yes. Is it as bad as raping someone? No. Right? You can change from having racist or homophobic ideas over 10 years to being not racist or homophobic, or maybe even supporting people of different ethnicities and supporting the LGBT community. That can happen over a course of 10 years. You can't unrape someone, that ain't go away. That's something that you could legitimately go, okay, I don't care how long it's been, you raped this person and nothing happened to you for it. Degree matters. And in this case, the degree of the offense ain't that damn high, right? Especially during that time, gay marriage wasn't even legal back then.
Yeah.
Gay marriage wasn't legal yet, right? And I like how everyone likes to forget all of the not people in the progressive wing, obviously, of America, but how a lot of people who push these cancel movements, I don't like calling it that because it's not a movement, it's just certain people. But a lot of people who push those types of things conveniently forget how normalized it was to make jokes about gay people or say homophobic things. People like to forget how normalized it was to say racist things or prejudiced things about Asians. I mean, do we forget about The Hangover? Do we forget about Nine Candles? Do we forget about all of these movies that made fun of all of the Asian tropes, the Hispanic tropes, the Black tropes that existed not 40 years ago, but 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago? Like, for us to act like those things never exist and that none of those things influenced us in those times, to have said racist or homophobic or xenophobic things, is ridiculous. Now, if you still hold those views, then yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah, we can get into to you being that type of person. But saying something in that time and then having a totally different perspective about it now, and even then saying something that, I'm not going to say it affected no one, because maybe it did. But in that case, again, the degree of offense is just so low to lose your job over.
I will also say, side note, sis is definitely Black. I just checked and she trained with the National Association of Black Journalists. Sis definitely Black.
Okay, so she's Black.
And I will add, like, with the extra context, while her comments may have been anti-Asian, I cannot say that they were racist.
Yeah, no. That's why I say
I cannot say that they were racist. Yeah.
That's why I add the prejudice to it. I say your comments 100% prejudice, racist. I don't know.
I think
it'll definitely depend on what your definition of racism is. But I would call those comments prejudice.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah.
because racism is part of a relationship. So, but that's another conversation. But yeah, definitely in this case, I think her resigning or being forced to resign from her position is a bridge too far for having done something as a teenager. I mean, if I go back and think about the wild shit I said in the cafeteria as a teenager, like,
I will say I would not be surprised if the internal discontent with her being chosen as the editor had nothing to do with the fact that she was a Black woman.
yeah,
I would not be surprised.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, why would you really be hating like that? Like,
exactly.
It went 10 years back on her
Because
Twitter.
they had to go 10 years back because there was nothing else there, right? She had no other flaws that they could pick at, so they had to go 10 years back to get these, to get these terrible tweets. Which again, no one is defending the tweets and saying, I mean, they're pretty good. Now, everyone's saying they're bad tweets. She said they're bad tweets. She said, she apologizes for having sent them, and doesn't make excuses for having written them. Right? Us talking about her age as a factor, she didn't even mention that. She didn't even mention, I was 17 at the time. Like she just said, no, I'm sorry for the tweets. Right?
yeah.
So I don't want anyone to get confused with us saying that the tweets are okay or anything like that, because they're not. They're not okay. But what I like, just to reiterate, what I'm upset about in this case is the fact that we didn't have that conversation about who is she today. After 10 years, what are her views? After 10 years, does she still have those same proclivities? Does she still, when she sees an Asian person, have those same thoughts, or a homosexual person has those same thoughts? And if the answer is no, then I don't think we need to remove her from whatever current position she has, because she's clearly not the same person she was back then. Speaking of LGBTQ, we have Lil Mama. Fell into obscurity. Ain't nobody heard nothing about her recently, But she decided to go out and get to talking. And I don't know if y'all saw the video with her talking in it.
Nope, but I heard some quotes.
Yeah, it's it's weird. She started to make a good point and just turned it bad. So the initial point she started to make was that we shouldn't confuse a child believing that they have to be another gender in order to achieve a certain dream, right? And so her example was, her daughter saying, "Mom, I want to be a boy." And then she goes, "Why do you want to be a boy?" Because boys are good at basketball, I think was the analogy she gave, and they're smart or something like that. So she was like, "Well, you don't have to be a boy to be good at basketball or to be smart," right? And so in that case, that's a decent enough point. So being able to understand, is it that you feel like you're a boy, or do you want to be a boy or do you feel like you're that gender? Or do you want to be the other gender because you feel like people of that gender do something that you're not supposed to do in your gender, right? So maybe, on the flip side, maybe you go, "Mom, I want to be a girl. Why do you want to be a girl?" Because girls get to, dance ballet. Well, you don't have to be a girl to dance ballet. You can dance ballet right now if you want to, right? So I think that was a good point. But then she goes on to say we shouldn't be, just goes off on a tangent talking about we shouldn't be allowing children to mutilate their genitals just because they're having a slight, identity thing. And just, it's and so she starts to show her unintelligence on those issues, because literally no one is saying that children should get sex assignment changes. In fact, it is scientifically recommended that they not get one until they're 18. So there's almost no child who's getting a sex reassignment surgery, if that's even what they want to do, because just because you want to identify as another gender does not mean you necessarily want to change your genitals. Some people do, some people don't. So just Just
Yeah.
total lack of understanding in that case. So she started making a good point, went into this tangent about mutilating genitals and not allowing people in the LGBT community to make straight people feel bad about having quote unquote different opinions about these issues. And so she said that, now I want to make sure I say this verbatim right here. She said that she is going to start a heterosexual rights movement because the heterosexuals in this country are mistreated. They're not allowed to express themselves, and they're not allowed to be who they want to be. The gays and the LGBT people are preventing the heterosexuals from being who they want to be and loving who they want to love. And to continue that, on TikTok now, there's a new trend. Have you guys heard of this one? It's called super straight.
You're lying.
Yeah. Yeah. So now the shtick here is oh, well, I was told that because I like a trans, or because I don't want to have sex with a trans woman, that I'm transphobic, even though I'm straight. And you're like, oh, well, she's a woman, and if you're straight, you should want to be with a woman. So it goes, so now I'm not identifying as straight anymore. I'm identifying as super straight. So that means that I only want to have sex with a woman who was born a woman. And then he goes on to say, so don't discriminate against my sexual identity or whatever because I'm super straight.
I'm like, do you even know what discriminate means?
And now what's funny with the super straight one, and we'll get back to the Lil Mama's thing in a second. The funny thing with the super straight one is he thinks that, like, it's implicit in him saying that he's super straight, that he believes that trans women are attractive, or rather that he's attracted to trans women. Because the whole reason he's making super straight is that once he gets to the bed and he realizes that they're not a woman in the sense that he wants them to be, well, now, and he doesn't want to have sex with them, that makes him transphobic or whatever in his eyes. But
yeah,
implicit in that is that you were attracted to a trans woman because she looks like a woman. So you being super straight will not prevent you from talking to a trans woman because you're still attracted to them. So you may still encounter them and go to the point where you're going to have sex and then realize they're trans. Or maybe they tell you straight up, because I think that weirdo scenario where they don't tell you they're trans until like right before you're about to have sex, I don't think that happens as often.
And that's where a lot of
I feel like people think that happens more often than it does. I feel like it does happen, but like not to the extent that people are saying, like, oh my god, you just never know. Like, I think most people let you know.
Yeah, and I would say like black trans women literally probably experience more violence than like any other black demographic, and so they go through a lot of shit. So like, there's definitely not. It's a common thing for black trans women to be killed by quote unquote straight black men, hetero cis black men.
Yeah.
Simply because of the fact they said, "Hey, I'm trans." No matter, like, it doesn't matter what point.
No matter what point.
What point. It could have been like they said, "What's up?" and it was like, "Hey, I'm trans," and like the guy just felt. The guy felt some type of way about himself, and then took that out on that woman. So
I would imagine probably most cases are they don't even like, they try to suss it out how the person feels about trans women beforehand, and would then reveal it. But like just the idea that most trans women meet a straight guy and then surprise you in the bed. Like, hell no. I feel like that's not happening as often as people are saying. That's just dangerous. It's too dangerous for them to do that. So why would they? But yeah. So guys now are super straight. And Lil Mama starting a heterosexual rights group because cisgender women and men are being discriminated against all over this country by the LGBT community. And by discriminated against, they mean that the LGBT community sometimes says things that hurts their feelings. That's their version of discrimination.
True. Yeah, this is. I think a lot of this stems from anti-LGBTQI culture, in Black culture, specifically in the South. Like I can speak from like my own experience with my family, speaking down upon that community. Like it's a
Yeah.
real thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, it's
yeah, yeah, and yeah, TJack, you mentioned with the last topic on how, and you had a great point. Like gay marriage just became a thing legally a
less than
decade
that.
ago, and I think that just showed less than a decade ago, and I think that just shows how this is a generational shift in thought of getting this out of our culture.
Generational shift in thought. KDot with the
yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just so. I did not expect this type of stupidity from Lil Mama. I'm not gonna hold you. I did not. Like, I genuinely did not. Like, when I seen it, I was like, "What the fuck? Like, she saying this shit? What the fuck? Like, what? Why? Like, who? Like, who did she pitch this to and was like, that's a good idea? Like, I'm like, who was in her circle? Because somebody failed her. Somebody failed her. That
so whoever
co-signed, gave her the thumbs up. I'm like, y'all failed her. Y'all really did. She didn't need that. She didn't need that because that was just so stupid. That was so stupid. Like,
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting when like Dave Chappelle talk about it. I mean, not even interesting. Like, I don't know if he like normalizes that type of shit, but he had an interesting perspective on it. He says the more that, and we can disagree on this, but he said the more that we talk about it in public, the more we accept it and not make it this like not make it a private taboo conversation.
I mean, I think generally, yeah. I agree. I mean, I definitely think it depends on how you talk about it.
Yeah,
because you could very much talk about it and be like, that's satanic, and like it's gonna be even more of a taboo. But yeah, I think it depends on how you talk about it. But I do think having open conversations that are positive, constructive, accepting and inviting and loving conversations. And I don't mean say accept and invite and love the people who say I refuse to accept and invite and love those who don't ascribe to the same gender as me or are part of the LGBTQ community. Like, I mean that in the sense of like you having a conversation and you are receiving that, yes, there are those who live differently than you might think what you're used to or you've grown up to be familiar with, and that's perfectly fine, and that's naturally how they are. And you don't have to, you don't have to be like, oh, honestly, I don't even want to say that. Like, it doesn't, like, you should just accept it. Like, it's really like, it's not even like, oh, you don't have to, like, you just accept it. People out here being people, and that's okay. But I'm definitely surprised. Like, I was definitely surprised to see this from her. Like, I read a quote from her from the Shade Room, and then literally I'm like, yo, this was like a quote from her live, and it was like, when it comes to people who choose to be gay or choose to be lesbian or choose to change their sexuality and have the mind frame of an adult, and you're able to do that on your own, I don't have anything against you. But when we're talking about these babies, we have to be mindful that they're being fed. That was the quote. And I'm like, for me, it was like when it comes to people who choose to be gay, I'm like, what? I'm like, we not past that yet? It's
no, being gay is still a choice, bro. You didn't know, bro? No, bro. It's like picking your favorite boxers, bro. All right, am I gonna wear these boxers today? I'm gonna wear those boxers. You slip in and out of here. All right, I'm gay today. I'll be straight tomorrow, and y'all switch over to streams on a Thursday. That's how it works, bro. You didn't know that? Yeah, no. You just pick. You just pick every day.
Yeah.
Like, that's he being sarcastic, yo. But
yes, I'm being sarcastic.
We gotta say that for the people who don't read.
Yeah, some people don't get. I'm being sarcastic.
But nah, I'm like, yo, I just I'm like literally once I saw that, I was like, I already know where you was coming from. You said
Yeah.
everything you needed to say with that. Yeah,
And
that was real stupid.
Yeah.
And it just to finish my point, I would say
go
like
ahead.
the fact that sis said it's a heterosexual rights movement. I'm like there is no legal restrictions, impediments, inhibitions put onto heterosexual cis people in the United States. None. You are not prevented from doing anything in the United States based off the fact that you are a cis heterosexual. Now, you cannot say the same about those in the LGBTQ community.
Right.
So, yeah.
Implicit, or that rather a broader generalization within that statement that you just read from Lil Mama is, and you may have seen a lot of this, oh, they're pushing this agenda on us, right? They're pushing the LGBTQ agenda on us, right? They're feeding this to us. They're feeding this to our kids, right? Now, my thing is, you can have an opinion of whether or not you're being fed some type of agenda. Okay. But as a Black person, there are bigger agendas to be aware of than an LGBTQ agenda. Like the school to prison pipeline agenda. Have we all forgotten about that? Did we do one study on it and then no one cares about it anymore? Right.
Right.
If you don't know anything about the money and politics agenda, if you don't know anything about the profiting of prisons agenda, right? If you don't know anything about the gentrification agenda, if you don't know anything about any of these other agendas that affect you directly and can prevent you from living a full life, you don't know anything about those. I don't want to hear a goddamn thing about no LGBTQ agenda. Because at the end of the day, even if it is an agenda, it's an agenda that doesn't harm you in any way. It's purely, for the most part, informational and protective. They're just trying to have their rights and the right to be whom they want to be, and also to let you know who they are, so that you respect them for who they are. That's the agenda. The agenda isn't let's make your kids gay, because that's what's implicit in that. They're trying
Right.
to force our kids to be gay. They're trying, or even, for some people it's not even that far. For some of them it's, oh, they're trying to force our kids to accept people who are gay, right? Or they're trying to force our kids to accept people who are LGBTQ. So and so that's just within their own biases. And I hate every time I hear, oh, they're pushing an agenda, they're pushing this agenda on us. And they're way big. I mean, it's not even an issue. So I can't even really say there are way bigger issues. But there are other things that are way more important than whether or not your kids are gay or aren't gay, or any of the other identities or sexualities. Because that's none of your business. It's none of your business. It's none of your business. Maybe I just need to make a t-shirt that goes, it's none of your business. But it's none of your business. Right? Respect people for who they are and move on with your life. That's all that anyone in the LGBT community is asking. Respect their lives and move on with yours. Respect their identities and move on with yours. Call them by their preferred names and move on. And, just to now have to come up with a group, a heterosexual rights group, just to spite the LGBT groups. You're just doing it. You're not doing it to legitimately get rights for heterosexual people, because there's no, like you said, Black Politech, there's no rights that heterosexual people aren't afforded in this country, specifically, that the government prohibits or anything like that. You're just doing it to spite LGBTQ people, because you're all of the phobics. You're homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic. You're just all of the phobics. Like, that's the only reason that she made this, that she's making this group. I'm sure she's not going to put anything actually behind it, because this sounds like the type of stunt just to get a little bit of publicity, since ain't nobody been talking about Lil Mama lately. So why not go viral off of some stupid shit?
Could you imagine if she dropped the album after this shit?
She probably, I'm telling you, because that's just how they are. Go viral to get some acclaim, so that way people listen to what you got to say later.
Yeah.
I think though this is uh, a defense to being called, like, her accusations of being transphobic and homophobic. This is like, yeah, I'm trying to save my career. Let's do this by,
But
This is almost
so
like
the
sinking
thing
her
is,
career, though.
exactly, I'm like, this is literally like, I didn't even know who that was the type of timing you was on until you did this shit. I feel like that's the case with most people.
Yeah, she sees all this cancel culture shit going on. She's like, I don't want to be canceled. Let's do something real desperate.
And
I don't
Let's
know what
talk
the
about
hell
it.
she was thinking. I'm like, this should that get you canceled? The fuck is
yeah, and look, I think you can make a comprehensive argument. Like let's say if we're talking about that in a different way. Like maybe she was told that she's transphobic, and the thing that she said or thought she didn't think was transphobic, right? But the person who told her she was transphobic didn't explain to her why she's transphobic. I think we could have a conversation about that. I think we
yeah.
can have a conversation about explaining to people why we use the labels we use on them for their behavior. And maybe even in some cases, the label isn't warranted, right? I think that's a real conversation you can have about the messaging of LGBTQ and many other issues, but specifically in this one, LGBTQ plus rights. So that's a real conversation we could have. What is the messaging? Is it more just calling people transphobic and homophobic without them understanding what's transphobic and homophobic? Because, I mean, I don't know if y'all live in America or not, but I do. And for what I found out, people in America are stupid. And they don't see the obvious thing in
Yeah.
front of them all the time. And even when you break it down, they still don't see it. So I can imagine for some people to be told you're transphobic and not feel you're transphobic and have no one explain to you what it means or why the thing that you did is transphobic can definitely be jarring. But the response to that is not
Right.
creating a group that's specifically against all of the things that you were just told that you're phobic against. It would be to inquire and ask for more information, right? And you could even equate that to our next topic with Sharon Osbourne, with her on The View crying, saying that she is not a racist, even though, she's good friends with Piers Morgan and she said racist things in the past. But for her, she doesn't believe that she is a racist because she doesn't think the things that she said or done are racist. Now, for her, she's an older woman, so you definitely got to take a lot of time to break that down, explain it to her, and even then, she still might not care. But for people like Sharon Osbourne, and I like to use her, they're the type of racists who only think that racism, and this maybe even goes back to Lil Mama thinking what transphobia is. You might only think that transphobia or racism is literally attacking or killing the people of that group. And if you're not doing that, then you are not transphobic and you are not racist or any of those types of trains of thoughts. And I think, and honestly, I don't know what the solution is for that one. I'm not going to lie to you because part of it, I'm like information, but like, the information's out there, plenty of videos, plenty of people trying to reach people. And, you're just not hearing it or you just don't want to hear it, whatever it is. But, I think too often the racists believe that they can, or the transphobes or the homophobes or xenophobes believe that they can define what it means to be a racist or a transphobe or a xenophobe.
Yeah.
Like you can't define that because you're the one perpetuating the oppression.
Right.
In those cases.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree with what you're saying, bro. Like, your point on, she's seen all these extreme forms of racism, so that's what is normalized for her. She normalizes racism to equate to. You said that she was pretty old.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's seen, the dogs biting the children, the nooses and whatnot. That's racism to her. That's you're not worthy of living because you're black. So he's thinking, "Oh, I'm not racist. That was nothing compared to what happened back in the day. I'm not racist at all." and and with Lil Mama, like, you know, I don't know what she considers transphobic or homophobic, but so y'all don't think that she like y'all think
I
she's
don't know.
I think she's dead ass.
I think she's dead ass in what she believes about her not being transphobic, and honestly her just not understanding what transphobia is in general. I believe she's like real in what her actual positions are. I think the heterosexual rights group thing, I think it's a stunt. I think she's trying to get clout.
I think she said. I think her not thinking she's transphobic is dead ass.
Yeah,
and this is her way of trying to prove that she's transphobic.
I don't think that's how she views that. I'm like, since you're not about to do no heterosexual advocacy group, thinking that's going to demonstrate you're not transphobic, there's no fucking way.
We think it's stupid, but there are people that are down in the South.
That's not.
You know what? Like, I mean, that could be beyond the level of stupid that I'm attributing to her. You're right.
Bro, they think that this is a sin.
You're right.
Like, this shouldn't.
I mean, shoot. I really just, I'm really just. I really just hope that's not the case, because I'm like, you really gotta be a certain type of stupid to think this is gonna show that you're not.
Parents, like y'all mentioned, parents being afraid that their children become, a member of the LGBTQIA community is a thing. Like, it's a thing. I'm not gonna buy this color shirt for you because I don't want you thinking that it's okay for you to wear this color shirt. I don't want you buying those toys in this sport or wearing these type of pants because I don't want you to think that this is okay for men or women. It's a thing.
I know that. I mean, I think I'm just like, that's a certain level of stupid to think this is going to be what demonstrates that you're not transphobic.
Remember Lil Boosie? What he did? He said that for his sons,
I heard about that. I heard that. That was crazy.
Yeah.
To make sure you are not.
Yeah, Boosie's a terrible parent. He should honestly be in prison for that.
Yeah,
he facilitated the sexual exploitation of his own children.
No, facts.
To make sure they're not.
But the way they sees it, like you're saying, I get your point, is that, my kids just became men. I didn't sexually exploit them; they just became men.
It's masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the just to close out this topic, I think one of the key issues with those people is that when you try to bring up what's wrong with the actions that you've taken, or you try to bring up some type of irony, they separate issues so far that they don't even allow the thing that they've done and the thing that you're explaining to connect. So, for example, you couldn't explain to Boosie, well, Boosie, if you had a daughter, and would you pay a male prostitute to have sex with your daughter? And he'd go, hell no, I wouldn't do that. So why would you do it with your son? Oh, because my son is a boy.
Yeah.
It would never connect. It'd never connect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
remember? He took his daughter to the doctor.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
They on some weird shit.
To check her hymen, but T.I. himself engages in a lot of fucking crazy sexual encounters at the minimum, and he might be a sexual predator at the maximum.
Yeah.
But he has to check his daughter's hymen because he doesn't want her to be a hoe. It's funny. If you wanted to prevent your children from, engaging in certain things or going, and this is a tangent. If you wanted to prevent your kids from engaging in certain activities or going down paths that you don't want them to go down, the best way to do that would be to facilitate a environment of trust with your child. So that way, when they start to make decisions, they come to you for advice. If you facilitate an era or an environment of distrust, then once your kids start to make bad decisions, they won't come to you. They'll go to their friends or someone else they trust because they don't trust you. So
Yeah.
that's just my 2 cents on that. I ain't got no kids, by the way.
Yeah.
I know everybody gonna say, "Oh, you ain't a parent, so you don't know." I think that's stupid.
Yeah, and
That's just
y'all, I'm sorry. Last thing, I promise. I want y'all, like, can we all agree that there are definitely people that are willing to support what
I
you're
think
putting down?
we already in agreement. That wasn't a question. Yeah.
Oh yeah, some people might try to join. You right?
Yeah. We probably know some. Literally, like,
it's a level of consciousness that just people just haven't obtained, bro. Like when we talk about race consciousness, there's also gender.
yeah. I mean, honestly,
sexual
like for
consciousness
me,
as
like
well.
definitely like the solid. So like starting school, was definitely like a major turning point. Like starting college, major turning point.
Definitely.
Cause literally like one of my first friends was like queer. So I was like, oh shit, like literally like in that moment, and he just like slid in that, and I was like, oh shit, like in that moment, radically destroyed all preconceived notions.
Yeah.
In that moment, radically destroyed all preconceived notions from like childhood and family. But what really sealed the deal and made everything like, and really got me to the point was my human sexuality class. Literally like transformed the way it was like, oh, like niggas don't choose their sexuality. It just is what it is, and like that's that. Like it's not like, oh, they people deciding like, nah, like it is what it is. They attract to what they attracted to.
Yeah.
And as people learn what they're attracted to, it's not, oh, they just choosing. It's they're learning that they're attracted to whatever, in whatever time or whatever. Like it's like it's natural, it's normal, it's nothing wrong. Yeah, that class was amazing for me.
It's funny. I know me and KDot went to school in the same city, and I don't know if it was the same at your school as it was at mine, but I was I was never not I was never like homophobic, if that made sense, and no one else around me was either, because there were already so many people who were gay in the area. Like my uncle was gay, and that was the first gay person I had ever met. And I was like, and I didn't know he was gay at first. And dude, like, big strong dude, tough, whatever. And then my mom told me he was gay, and I was like, he's gay? But like he doesn't look like the gay people I see on TV. He's not like super flamboyant and his speech thing or whatever. And she was like, yeah, he's gay. And I was like, huh. And that was like when I was like in middle school, I think. So, and then like I just kept encountering gay people who broke whatever stereotype there was on TV. And then once I got to high school, lots of guys were gay, and all of them could fight, so no one really made fun of them. So if you did make fun of them, they got hands. So it was what it was. And then I'll never forget the one story my friend told me. There was a guy who would come by and help out in one of the student orgs that we had, and he was a really cool guy, very popular. He was older, obviously he was alumni of the school, and I knew he was gay, and a couple other people knew he was gay. But it wasn't something he was like advertising or whatever, and it didn't really matter. But my friend, one of my best friends at the time, he didn't know he was gay. And he really like idolized the dude, thought he was cool and all of that. And so then one day me and him were talking, and he was like, dang, I wonder what kind of girls he dates. Like I couldn't imagine anybody dating him. And I was like, he's gay, right? And he was like, bro, stop lying. And I was like, yeah, he's gay. And I was like, hey, come over here. He was like, yeah, what's up? He was like, what's your need? And I was like, tell him you're gay. And he was like, yeah, I'm gay. And he was like, bruh, both of y'all lying to me. Like, what's going on?
I'm
and he was like, and it was just the most nonchalant thing ever. He was like, yeah, I'm gay. And then like he walked away. And then my friend was just standing there, just kind of staring at some space. And he was like, bro, what just happened? And then, next day he's cool. He's like, well, I mean, I liked him before and I still like him now. So him being gay is just him being gay. And so like it was just, and I come from, you could call it the hood. So it's just interesting to have grown up in that environment and for it to not have been like super homophobic or super transphobic or whatever, like I see in some other communities.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely like going off of that, you know, like you mentioned the hood and the LGBTQI community. That's where the real struggles are for it. People that can't get jobs because of their sexual orientation. People that it's big time struggles in our own communities that sometimes we don't even see. But yeah, just growing up in DC, like it was a interesting exposure to that reality, especially with, and I'm sure you've heard of. Check it as a group of members of the LGBTQI community in DC, all Black brothers and sisters that experienced that had different experiences growing up that a lot of Black people or a lot of people from the hood that weren't part of that community can't really speak on, like being ousted from your parents. Like you can't live here anymore, so you got to be on the streets. And they were, everyone knew somebody from the Check It, and they were in the Go-Go's, and they were just like cool people. But as you mentioned, like there's definitely a stereotype portrayed of what a gay person is, or what have you. So definitely growing up in this city, like you're not really you're not homophobic or whatnot. Not to say that you can't be, but if you really take everything in when you're growing up, it's good because like other people that come from other places that never had that exposure,
they
don't really ones that do all that crazy shit.
My experience was pretty much the opposite of TJakks. It was not. Oh, it's just everything's accepted, and nah, it was nothing like that. It was nothing like that.
Yeah, my family not.
Yeah,
like no. Like my mother tells my little brother, when I was giving those examples of you can't wear this, you can't play with this. Like
it's funny, bro. My family is the
family
exact opposite. It's like do whatever you do, and like my mom, it wouldn't matter what we are, if it was gay or trans or whatever, she'd be straight. My grandma, both my grandmothers literally wouldn't care. The grandmother I thought would care has like now she's just like, I don't care, do whatever you're going to do. Like it don't matter to me. Like I'm old, I don't got nothing to do with that. And it's just so weird. Like throughout my family, there are different people. I don't think there's anyone that's trans in my family, but definitely um, do have gay family members. Um, but yeah, it's weird. They're just all like super accepting. Like no one would I could never see anyone from my family being shunned for their sexual identity or their sexual orientation, unless it was like some devious shit.
That's lit. That's right.
Yeah.
Someday, if I ever have offspring, they'll say that about me.
Yeah. Well, moving on. I know Black Politech, you put in here, you want to talk about Tamir Rice's mother calling out Sean King and BLM Global.
Yeah, so this is kind of like interesting. So like earlier this week, she basically the mother of Tamir Rice, Tamaria, I think her name is Tamaria. Is it let me read what I put. Was it? I don't want to disrespect. No, Samaria, my bad. Yeah, Samaria Rice put out a statement that basically said, what is it? Tamika Mallory, Sean King, Benjamin Crump, Lee Merritt, Patrice Cullors, Melina Abdullah, and the Black Lives Matter Global Network need to step down, stand back, and stop monopolizing and capitalizing our fight for justice and human rights. We never hired them to be the representatives in the fight for justice for our dead loved ones murdered by the police. The activists have events in our cities and have not given us anything substantial for using our loved ones' images and names on their flyers. The attorneys in our fight are also misleading the impacted families. In the case of Tamir Rice, it was even questionable as to whether Benjamin Crump knew the laws in depth in the state of Ohio. I fired him 6 to 8 months into Tamir's case. We don't want or need y'all parading in the streets, accumulating donations, platforms, movie deals, etc. off the death of our loved ones, while the families and communities are left clueless and broken. Don't say our loved ones' names, period. That's our truth. And then she put out a list of demands. So like she says, step down. Demand one was step down from the spotlight of our fights. Do not do any more interviews, make any more t-shirts, or hold any more press conferences or events in the name of our loved ones. Do not use our loved ones' names to market any events. Black Lives Matter Los Angeles should pay me, Lisa Simpson, as the mother of Richard Risher. They had a press conference for the 49-day encampment when my son Richard Risher first got killed. They raised $5,000 for my son's funeral. I never received one penny. 3, financial assistance for the Tamir Rice Foundation from all who have exploited Tamir Rice. And she listed Tamika Mallory, Sean King, Benjamin Crump, and Black Lives Matter Global Network. Samaria Rice purchased the building in 2018. It needs remodeling and operational funding. 4, housing funds for Lisa Simpson, as I am battling homelessness with my current children. My son Richard Risher was killed by, and I think when she's transitioning to the I think that's like the demand from Lisa Simpson. But I am battling homelessness and current children. What's it called? Oh no, actually, okay. Not the way I'm reading it. So the woman who posted that statement earlier was from. Oh, so that statement. My bad. So that statement is from Samaria Rice and Lisa Simpson. So yes, these demands are from both of them. That's why she's going back and forth between I. But yeah, also she says housing funds. Lisa Simpson says she's battling homelessness with her current children. My son Richard Risher, killed by the LAPD, was offered no assistance from BLM. I'm currently living in a motel with my children and need funds for housing. Dang, this seems okay. It's only 2 more. Support the Tamir Rice Foundation and make all requested donations there. And they got TamirRiceFoundation.org, and then send personal donations to Cash Apps of $ Samaria Rice and $ Lisa Lee 693.
So, in the words of my wonderful, beautiful girlfriend, she's not wrong. They are not wrong, because I don't see a single thing in there that is wrong or unreasonable in any way, especially in those other cases of exploiting, the images and the likenesses and the names of the deceased in order to make money. I used to think about that all the time. Like people, like when I think I first started thinking about that when the Trayvon Martin like hoodies and shirts came out. Like, yes, in support of Trayvon Martin, but like y'all are selling this. Y'all are making money off of selling his likeness for the movement. It's a commoditization of the activist movement. And in this case, her loved one has been commoditized and is being made money off of, and she hasn't been hurt. The family hasn't been compensated in the ways that they should be. And it speaks to a larger issue of how these movements end up getting hijacked by the businesses in these countries, who come in as benevolent arbiters wanting to quote unquote help, spread the message and spread awareness, but it's always to spread a message or spread awareness for a price, and they're going to make that money by using these tragedies, and you see that all over, right? You see all of the woke culture by corporations. Now you got Wendy's or KFC or Walmart tweeting and texting, acting like they're real people down with the cause and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So that they can make a few extra dollars, right? You can buy a Black Lives Matter hoodie at a Walmart, right? So I feel what she's saying 100%.
I will say Walmart been upping their minimum wage for their employees. I will acknowledge that. So I fuck with that. But
True. going off of TJak's point, with the corporations, definitely it's obvious performative activism. And now that I think about it, they're hijacking the movement, putting Black Lives Matter in their websites and their, in their visions and their missions. But they're not donating to Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. Well, so Black Lives Matter Global Network did get a lot of money in this past year, like some millions. And that's like fuels. That fuels some.
I'm out of the loop, bro. But who the fuck is Black Lives Matter Global?
So, Black Lives Matter Global is like the national/international, but mostly national umbrella org that descends down into like Black Lives Matter LA, Black Lives Matter Syracuse. Granted, the actual formal legal financial ties are not solid or even in existence most of the times, but like Black Lives Matter Global Network is like the broader one that's like a national policy focused.
In other words, it's a ghost corporation that makes its money through donations.
I wouldn't say that.
That's what it sounds like.
Nah, I wouldn't say that, because it's not like it's like a corporation for something or someone else. Like, that's not really what it is. It's almost like it's akin to like Movement for Black Lives, but it's just like the national. Yeah, like there's like national, and there's like there's technically like sub chapters and like smaller chapters.
But you said there are no financial connections.
So for most, there are not. There's some chapters where that's been the case, but like most, they're not. But
that sounds like it goes.
No. But like it's largely a result of like lack of organization and communication.
But somebody's making that money though. You just told me they took in millions. So
yeah, they did.
But they're not organized enough to have the structure that they need. So like they're organized enough to take in millions of donations, but not organized enough to have an actual structure.
Well, so like my critique again, like about them right now, and there's like a whole bunch of internal stuff going on with the chapters, and like it's a whole bunch of critique against the national chapter. But I mean, even like specifically for that, like even like the Syracuse chapter BLM like got an influx of donations. Like it's nothing for people to find your link to donate to you in their time of white guilt, and like that be that.
Right, but
what'd you say?
Get them.
Oh, they got. I can search it up right now. So.
And my question is like, who monitors that bank account, right? Like, who is it? Who's in control of that money? Because it's a person or persons.
Yeah, it is. So like they're a nonprofit. So I don't know who the treasury person is. I don't know none of that stuff. But like they're definitely a nonprofit, and like everywhere it goes is technically public. So yeah. Like me, my worry is not really misappropriation of funds. It's just there's a lack of organization and a lack of communication, and that breeds distrust. I don't like
if you're not organized, then you can't appropriate funds appropriately.
Agreed, but I think a misappropriation of funds in the sense that like there's an intentional misuse of funds. Like if I had to guess, shit is just sitting there. Like it's not getting spent on initiatives, because like yeah, but again, like their shit is public.
I like to see their books. I like to take a look at their books.
They don't save money right now, bro, and that's what I want to get into. like we mentioned in like those demands where people are not receiving the funds, and as TJack mentioned, like people are what do you say,
Commoditizing.
commoditizing
Okay.
off of dead bodies, which is one fucked up. But yeah, so like with and I can speak from my experience because recently I've been trying to get more involved in DC local activism, and my Instagram is not active right now. I've been relying on websites, but most involved. And at first, I was thinking, it's a pandemic, so we're not doing that much in-person stuff. But the most common way I can get involved is by donating right now. And it's just like, come on now. Like this is not, I know, as I said, I know we're in a pandemic, but like this movement is just getting, as you said, disorganized. Like I don't, like, the movement is going bad when people don't even feel like they can contribute positively to the movement anymore.
Yeah.
Like what happened to like the other day I saw the new Black Panther guys in the streets. Like what happened to what happened to that neighborhood involvement type stuff instead of this internet stuff?
I mean,
so quickly, like, and what I was saying initially with like the money in the performative activism, you said
they got
BLM is getting
they got
millions,
90
and that's
million
great, right?
last year. The BLM Global Network, they got 90 million last year.
And that's great, but there are so many different corporations out here stealing their stuff, like putting Black Lives Matter on their websites and all of this and that in their mission statements. And then we got all the local businesses on the ground, like putting Black Lives Matter. Like I was driving through one of the neighborhoods today, and the whole street got Black Lives Matter on a flagpole, on a light pole. Yeah, government, whatever. And that's another thing. The government's putting all this Black Lives Matter stuff. They're not supporting the movement. Like y'all just put a flag. So 90 million, that's great. But Amazon got their own Black Lives Matter shit going on. They could donate 90 million by themselves.
Yeah.
And that's nothing to them.
I mean, they only donated 10 million to climate change. They ain't really about that shit.
Right. And the issue, like, this movement is getting so clouded because now people don't even know what it's about anymore. People, they think it's like a corporate thing where, it's a hiring movement where we want to devote our resources to hiring more Black people. We don't want to devote our resources to fixing real, like that's an issue, not enough representation, but fixing actual issues on the ground.
And you're just so right when you say how hijacked Black Lives Matter has become, because Black Politech mentioned it 2 episodes back.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter is specifically about police brutality. It's one issue. It's not everything that Black people go through. It's the one issue, and now it's this gigantic umbrella term that either you're with Black Lives Matter, or you're against it, type thing. And being with Black Lives Matter means being with all of these different Black things, but it's one thing. Black Lives Matter is one thing, and you're just so right when you say how abused Black Lives Matter as a brand has been. Because you could even, go on a porn site right now, and if you type in BLM, you will find some type of porn where it's like oh, I'm saying BLM while, taking it from the back or something. It's like it's that far. It's that far. You could literally find porn that is commoditized BLM.
I think it's a whole bunch of ways to look at it. Because like one, I'm not mad that there are a whole bunch of different micro movements within BLM. I'm not mad about that. I think that's natural and healthy, to be honest. Because I mean, ever since probably like fucking Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Like there's no longer any like spearhead, singular head of movement type. Like that doesn't really exist no more. Yeah, exactly. Like that doesn't really exist no more. And I'm not. What'd you say?
It's probably for the best.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For black, queer black women as well. Like I'm like we gotta
No, the
include that.
organization was
And
founded
like
by 4 black women.
I think, so in terms of like it being like all over the place. I mean, I think it's just natural because like even the way in which you address police brutality is such a like complex thing to combat because you have like the national laws and we have like the whole thing about how the national laws show up, but then like national regulation over state governed police departments is like a fucking mess. And then like there's like the issue of like city charters and how those interact with like the police union. And then like that's different based off your county. And then like it's like literally every time you go in, it could be some whole completely different shit related to like how police departments, all the shit function and the method in which you go to addressing it. And I think that's a big part of why like shit shows up a lot differently. Shit shows up a lot like at a base level, like shit shows up a lot differently. From city to city, town to town. And then on top of that, it's like even in addressing it, like the actual addressing it, because part of when we talk about like, you know, we're addressing like police brutality, a big proponent of that is like we talk about dismantling policing, but because we're talking about dismantling policing, it's like we also got to pick up the work of saying, well, what's an effective replacement? What are alternative models to public safety? So like that fucking research has to happen. And to actually do that shit, you got to talk about like find access to resources, access to equitable housing, access to equitable finance, access to equitable food. And it's like by the time you get all the way out the fucking there, you're talking about everything that affect black people and marginalized people, period. By the time you get fucking there, so and it's like literally like to you start at one point, let's say you got to walk 3 steps back and then run 3 miles out left and right, and then that's where the fuck you got to come from to bring it back into the point of, okay, y'all, this is how we're going to decrease police brutality. That's literally like how the fuck this shit is going right now. It's crazy. Like it's mad fucking work. But I will say that's a lot of that. Like for the people doing actual work, that's why that shit look as messy as it look. Even for people doing the best of their ability, that's why that shit will look messy regardless. I would say. But like in terms of like the original topic about her calling out Sean King and I think it's crazy if like BLM LA or whatever really didn't give them no money. I think that's fucking crazy because I like I'm very surprised if that's the case. But again, like every chapter is different. Like everybody moves different. Everybody, some is incorporated, some is not. Some is like actual nonprofit, some are not. Some I don't really.
But I'm not surprised. And I tell you why I'm not surprised. In this recession, bruh, these people that are working these full-time Black Lives Matter jobs, they don't have another source of income.
That's the thing. It's not the majority of them is like not the majority of like Black Lives Matter orgs are like not they ain't getting paid. And put it like that.
Right.
It's volunteer shit.
Right. And so that stems like, did they lose their other job? And looking at it, as you just mentioned, they're not getting paid. And looking at, you know, something like Black Panthers, where, you know, they were living off of they were living off of their own organization, getting donations.
Yeah, you know it's nothing like that. It ain't shit.
No, but it is. It is in a recession. It is because not all of them have jobs, bro.
No, I'm saying like
just from the outside looking in, it looks like they're really struggling to survive financially. By only asking for donations. They're not asking for help. They're asking for financial contributions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just what I've experienced trying to get involved in DC, but they're only asking for donations.
I mean, is the chapter in DC incorporated or not?
It's an official chapter, but
are they like a nonprofit or not?
I don't know, but I do. I think they I don't. Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah,
okay. Because I was gonna say you could
look it up.
Yeah,
true. And they probably do get donations for some people, but they are openly revolutionaries. Like they're not trying to deal with the mayor's reform or little like when they painted the street with the Black Lives Matter, they were against that. They were like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, that makes sense.
So and that's another example of how this whole movement is getting twisted by performative activism, and it seems kind of intentional sometimes. Like, oh, we're gonna shut y'all up by making the public think that we're doing y'all a favor.
Oh yeah, it's always intentional. It's never an accident. It's that always intentional.
Right, plenty of that. Well, there's a lot on this one, so let's move on. We don't want to use up all our time here.
Good topic.
So you also put in here Black Politech, Tennessee Republican senators voting to keep slavery in the state constitution. What's going on there?
Damn.
Yo, so these stupid folks, yo. So apparently, like the state constitution from Tennessee has circumstances under which it allows slavery. The state constitution of Tennessee. Now, while the federal shit supersedes all of that, the Democrats in Tennessee was like, let's just get rid of this shit. It doesn't make sense for it to be on our constitution, right? And the Republican senators said no. And they voted on it. And the Republican senators, state senators beat them. And that shit will not be changed. What's today's date? It's wait, pause. Let me okay, no, I think I'm wrong. Is this
I hope you are, bro.
18th. When was the 18th? That was 3 days ago. So yeah, no. Okay. No, they still have to go. They still have to do the official vote on Tuesday. I guess they did their like discussion meeting. But I literally saw a video where they went and made their vote. So I don't know. I don't know if this shit is behind or not. This is like WMC News.
Yeah.
They might be behind. But basically one of the guys was like, one of the senators, and the reason this shit is fucking crazy, one of the senators, the state senators came up here like, hey y'all, so I'm not a lawyer, so I don't really know what this constitution says. And I know my constituents, they don't really know how to read this constitution. But I do know that we don't want to go through making all these changes and making this constitution any more complicated. So I'm gonna vote no. That's what the fuck he said. And then I was just like, and then another senator was like, I think it's crazy that you would say that our constitution allows racism. Allows slavery. I think that's a moot point if the vote is over removing it from.
Yeah. So, look, Black Politech, you probably didn't know this about me, but I am actually a polyglot, and one of the languages I speak is Tennessee State Republican Senator. I know, right? Awesome. So I'm gonna just go ahead and translate that for you. So, what he really said there was, I'm racist, my constituents are racist, and we're going to continue to support racism. Thank you.
Yeah, that I think that's how I heard it too.
So I just had to flex my foreign language skills there real quick. But yeah.
I'm not surprised.
It's like we're literally in 2021. Every time slavery is brought up, these same folks will say it was all these years ago, and I'm like, y'all still have it in your constitution, and currently don't want to change it.
I mean, you know what? It's interesting because this is a new excuse here, because normally they go, oh, heritage, you can't erase our heritage, American history, we can't erase that. So now they're just going, too lazy to change it. It's too complicated. Who wants to read all those words?
Y'all know that the KKK was founded in Tennessee, right?
I believe it. See, that's why I don't be out there. I don't be in them red places.
They talking some y'all gonna go to TJP? No, I'm not going to no Tennessee Greek picnic. I'm gonna die before I make it to the picnic. Die on my way to the picnic.
Yeah, nah.
But nah, that's to be expected. Honestly, I'm not surprised.
I have no fucking words. That is just that. Like that's just that. Like when I first heard you mention this, I automatically thought of the statues of the Confederates, and how some people fought to keep them. And it's just like why? Like why do y'all like? It's like they're trying to hold on to that history as if it means something to them. Like, like my grandfather was in the Confederate, the Confederacy, and we gotta. That's the only way I remember him, just by reading that in the Constitution. Y'all can't do that to me.
Yeah.
Saweetie and Quavo. Why do I keep saying it like that? Quavo. Saweetie.
Because you've been drinking that whole Quavo.
So Saweetie and Quavo have officially broken up. It was obviously Saweetie's fault because Quavo would never cheat. Black men don't cheat. And that's all I got to say about that. But no, it appears they had some issues going on, and the issue might have been Quavo.
Dang. That's crazy. I thought, I believe they was really on their shit.
You can never believe any of this bullshit out here.
I mean, you can't, but like,
Politech.
I didn't give a fuck enough. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
you saw it on social
I didn't give a fuck
media.
enough to doubt it. I mean, yeah, I didn't like. It's like I don't really give a fuck about nobody's celebrity relationship like that. Right. Like you tell me you good, unless I see you out here with bruise marks on your face or some shit. I'm like, you good. I'm not gonna take it as nothing else. So
yeah, I think it is interesting.
I mean, that's crazy.
You see those people. The people overreact. They go, "Oh my God, if Quavo and Saweetie can't make it, there's no hope for love."
I'm like, you a little goofy. That was your benchmark. They was a little goofy. It's funny because when Quavo got with Saweetie, I definitely thought Quavo like white girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? He might have cheated.
He might have. Oh my God, if he cheated on her with a white girl, bro.
That's crazy.
One thing I don't like about this though, and it's just my prerogative, is making it well known, making it global that y'all broken up, like releasing something on Twitter or something, making a tweet.
I mean, they celebrities though. That's
but it was just fucking extra, bro. Like this is what he said. So Quavo said, I had love for you and disappointed you did all that. You are not the woman I thought you were. I wish you nothing but the best. Bro, that's like it's not no I'm single. It's not no I'm single tweet. It's you did all this shit. And I'm gonna let everybody know about it. And fuck you.
That is, it's so funny because I read that too.
I didn't know that shit
I
happened.
read that too, and I was like, "This is such a toxic nigga tweet." Like, this is a
Facts
toxic
bro.
tweet. Bro, I was like, "Oh my god, this nigga." He went and read the book for toxicity and was like, "All right, time to type out the tweet I need to get my girl back and to get sympathy for myself in this situation."
Facts.
It's almost and it's the.
My nigga,
No, but Saweetie gonna respond to it almost some take care.
Nah. If people are associating Quavo with who? With Future now.
I mean, it sounded the same.
He's on the Future level of toxic.
That sounded like something that Future would type verbatim. I had so much.
But, I had love for you, and you disappointed. And disappointed you did all that.
It's like, awesome. Yeah, I cheated, but you ain't have to tell nobody. Like, damn, we can put it out there for supposed to be our business. So, you know what I'm saying?
I bet you he thought that, since Offset could get away with that shit.
Nah, bro, you haven't seen all the memes, bro. They got the Draymond and KD meme. I'm telling you, it was like Offset telling Quavo how to get Saweetie back.
Damn.
No, it's hilarious. There's so many memes. Oh man,
we're in a pandemic, so you can't just interrupt the TV show.
Cardi and Saweetie was supposed to be having a song because people thought they was beefing. For the longest, people thought they was like slick beefing.
I think they look like each other.
No, what the fuck?
Probably, yeah. You probably tripping. But I was gonna say, like, they had basically said, they was working on some shit together to like squash the whole like they
smoking that good ganja.
But I'm like, I wonder if that shit ever gonna come out now that like she ain't fucking with Quavo no more.
This picture looked like she looks smack like her.
Bro, you smoking good ganja, bro. You do not look like Saweetie and fucking Cardi don't look nothing alike. You need some new glasses, bro. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they still came out with the song. Just because Saweetie seems like the type to cash in on some shit. While she still can. Not to say that she's like,
no, why she still can.
Yeah, not to say that she's like a gold digger type of nothing like that, but like she'd see this as an opportunity to be like, well, I'm not with the man no more, but I can still make, a couple of dollars. This, sensationalism that we've gotten from breaking up is going to make my song when it comes out more hot. So I can see that happening. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this week's episode of the Black House Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll tune in for the next one. Until then, we bid you adieu.